This video was made possible by the EA Game Changers. Alrighty guys, welcome back to my channel today, and we are doing a brand new Sims 4 speed build today, and so today is definitely going to be a really great day just because I'm excited to say that today's video is an extra special video because I made my very first Elder Sim that I actually enjoyed making and playing with and enjoying the new gameplay from Nifty Knitting that I wanted to make a brand new house for that Sim, and today is that day. And I bring you guys a very nifty home for a nifty granny who has a very interesting backstory that has to do with Strangerville, Parenthood, and all the other packs combined. And it is not a pack restricted build because I wanted to be able to use it to my benefit of using all the packs that I had access to me to fully express my story and the build behind it with clutter, basically. And if you guys want to download this build, it is up on the gallery for download tomorrow, actually, when Nifty Knitting comes out. So if you do want it, check the gallery tomorrow. My origin ID is SpringSims, also under the hashtag SpringSims as well. It is on I believe, a 30 by 20 lot or a 20 by 15 lot. Either way, one of those two. And it's not a starter home because I don't believe in starter home prices because they're just quite bland and boring. However, I do want to express that with elders now having a purpose in my game, because before I didn't really use elders and I found them as babies with teeth and just they could walk and talk and do all the things. And with babies in the game, they're just there as objects. But with elders before Nifty Knitting, they were also objects to me, even though they could like do things. I just didn't have fun playing with them. But now I do. And so I bring you guys Alice Josephine Alto. She is a 87-year-old woman who has 2 kids and 3 grandkids, but she's also a widow. But she also has a cat named not Mr. Whiskers. It's technically called Captain Whiskers. And I, for one, am very pleased about this because I built this on stream literally a few days ago without Nifty Knitting installed, and I want to be prepared to have the house built before the pack. And I came back a couple days later, most likely 2 days ago on Saturday, to finish her little office. And if you do have any ideas on what I could do next for Nifty Knitting, let me know down in the comments below as always. And yeah, so let me get into the story. Let me just get y'all a little situated and prepared on what I'm going to share with you all, because I did make a creative sim for Alice and what she looks like, who she is, like how she became to be, and why she's living in Willow Creek, of all places, even though it's like my favorite world to play in sometimes. Willow Creek, of all places, is like the Florida of the US, basically, to me. So that's how I kind of see it personally. Because in case you guys didn't know, if you didn't watch the stream, I did explain that Alice Josephine Alto, she is a little bit of a descendant to the Alto family from The Sims 3. I don't know if they were in The Sims 2 or not. I just know them from The Sims 3. But the Alto family, they are, rich and famous and snotty. Alice is none of those things. Even though she has the last name Alto, she was technically adopted into the Alto family, like years ago, back in like the late 1900s. So it's been a very, very long time since she has technically, expressed that she was a part of the Alto legacy, even though she wasn't, because she was adopted into the family. And when things were going on back when she was like around 8 years old, that's when she got adopted. The family back then weren't able to have kids, and they saw Alice as a good child, good potential, was a really, well obedient, behaved well child in the orphanage, and was able to snag her up and bring her along the way of the family name. But since she was adopted, she doesn't get any inheritance or any, personal thing when relatives die, because she's not blood related. And so that's why she's not technically an alto per se. And so Alice had to basically work so long and hard to get to where she is now, because back in like the late 1920s, like 1923 to be exact, around August, like around this time, like July, August, around that time basically, is when she met Charles Alto. And Charles Alto was, his last name was not Alto, except he took the Alto last name for the legacy part and like, recognition as an Alto. And so he just took Alice's last name, which is, cool. Take the woman's last name, great time. But when Alice met Charles, he was actually from Strangerville, and that's where those two kind of hit it off, because Charles and George Cahill, who's also a pilot from Strangerville, they were both in the military, and back then, things were not so great for them, if I do say so myself. And when you think about it, George Cahill was kind of strange in the brain. And when they both got called off to war into World War II back in the late 1930s, it was like around the time where Alice and Charles were like both married and they had, they had a kid. They had two kids. They had twins. They had twins named Nicholas Jr., who is actually Nick Alto from The Sims 3. Alice named her first son after her great grandfather's name, Nick Alto. And so that's why his name is Nicholas Jr. Alto, or Nicholas Alto Jr. in a sense. And then she had another kid named Daisy Alto. Just, Daisy seemed like a perfect name to name a child because, happy-go-lucky, great time living in Strangerville. And they actually lived next to the Sigworth family, who's also like a military family, like the old Sigworth family, not the new one that we have in the game. They're relatives, like they're descendants, basically, the Sigworth family. And they used to live there for a couple of years, but then when Alice got a call, I am literally not kidding. She got a call, most likely a telegram via note, and also a call afterwards, and then a knock on the door. She got 3 messages. 3. One she missed because she wasn't home, because she was, doing whatever, taking care of kids, visiting family. And then number 2, she missed a note because apparently someone stole it off her front porch. Like, who does that? Of all things, who would steal things off of your front porch in a time like this? But then she was actually home for the 3rd call, where she later on found out that Charles died in the war. And World War II, I don't know much about history. I'm not a history buff like Kayla. She knows more than I do. However, when Alice got a call about Charles dying in the war, she was devastated. She didn't know what to do. She didn't know how to react to it, but cry for literally 4 days straight of crying. And even though she's still like emotionally like, sad, mentally she was like, okay, what do I have to do to like get my life situated and like not make my children know that I'm upset? Even though that they did lose their father, I want to make sure to give them like put on a brave face and show that everything is going to be okay. We'll get through this together. And around that time it was I believe, because World War II started 1938 and then ended 1945, but Charles died 1942. And so around that time when Nicholas and Daisy, they were born actually 1938. And so they were a little bit older, like not that old, but like still in like their toddler phase around that time when Charles died. And Alice got the call, or, the knock on the door, or whatever you want to call it. She was thinking, okay, I have all of this stuff. What can I do? And she was living in Strangerville for like the past, like, I'm going to say 35 years. Like, she did not leave Strangerville for 35 years. Time went by and people grew up, people left, people came in, new development came in. And that's when George Cahill was like old and senile and like losing his mind basically. And she asked George, saying like, hey George, I knew you were best friends with my husband Charles, and like I want to know what like actually happened. And George couldn't bring himself to like actually tell her, only just like that things got way out of hand and times were just way just too chaotic over there. And he just didn't know how to explain to her that he basically went in the middle of the night, even though he was not allowed to. It caused him to like lose something dear and close to him was his life. And it was not a good time. And so what Alice did to tie in Nifty Knitting is that she basically knitted a lot of stuff to remember Charles. And she also knitted the stuff for Charles while he was in the war in Germany. And so when around that time she was like developing like her knitting skill and like thinking of new ideas and thinking, even though like Charles died, she had this side business where she sold on Flopsy, but back then there was no internet. So she basically went to the flea market in San Myshuno and sold her stuff at the flea market, and like, you know, other things like in Evergreen Harbor and, you know, San Myshuno, and also I believe in Willow Creek. And she thought to herself, maybe this is actually a good idea of moving to a different city or like a different area to pursue my business. But things were holding her back, like taking all that stuff that she had in her house, along with like her stuff, Charles' stuff, and all the kids' stuff. She didn't want to move. And so she basically just like stayed there for 35 years working on her business remotely while still like traveling to different places and selling stuff by putting on a brave face for other people. And it was like not too long ago, I'm going to say after like 35 years living in Strangerville, she thought to herself, her kids are grown. They have their own diplomas, their own families, their own things. And it was around Alice's like, I'm going to say 54th birthday, around that time, like her 54th birthday, her kids, you know, Nicholas and Daisy, the kind souls that they are, and the fact that they were, you know, blood related altos in a sense, like even though like the elder alto didn't acknowledge Alice being, you know, adopted into the family, they did acknowledge that Nicholas and Daisy were, you know, the blood related relatives that they always wanted, basically. And it was like they had money from the trust fund that Nicholas Alto, Nicholas Alto, the original Nicholas Alto, had set aside for all his kids, all his grandkids, whether they were all blood related relatives, basically, with the last name Alto, besides Alice. And so when they had all the money situated and everything, Nicholas Jr. or Nicholas Alto Jr. and Daisy, they kind of talked to their mother saying, hey, Mom, I know that life is tough. I know that they're not going your way. And I don't want to see you very sad and alone in like this strange place that is not really up to par. And I don't want you to be stuck, and I don't want your business to flop, basically. And what Nicholas and Daisy did was saying, hey, Mom, I think it's time for you to move to another area that you can thrive in, a place that you would probably have more benefit being in. And Alice was like thinking of different places, like not really, you know, going for it. But she later on realized that maybe it's time for her to move. And she told her son and daughter, thinking, hey, what if I move to Willow Creek? Because Nicholas lives in Willow Creek as well, but Daisy lives in Brindleton Bay. But Nicholas actually lives where the Goth family, like in that sub neighborhood, he lives over there. It's like they're like pretty much close in proximity, like walking distance, basically, or driving distance, or, you know, loading screen distance, basically, how to put into perspective, because we don't have cars in the game yet. But since Nicholas lived close by, he thought, what if I like contract somebody to build you a house? And this is a house that they decided to build. And so when they were building the house, it took like about a couple of months, like about, let's say 11 months to build, which is like very fast. If you think about it, they took all the stuff from the old house, like all the memories, all the knickknacks and paddywhacks that they had, grabbed that stuff and took it over to Willow Creek. I'm not kidding. It took them literally 4 months. 4 months to get this house the way Alice wanted it, but also kind of just get things situated and call it home. And even though Alice lives here alone and has a double bed, I wanted to have something for her to, like, you know, maybe sleep on one side or sleep on the other side. And as for a bedroom that I'm building right now, I didn't want to have a bunch of stuff in here. And I wanted to be able to have like some pictures on the wall of old memories that she had from Charles when he was like younger and they were dating and they got first married, like stuff like that. So I wanted to be able to have a lot of stuff for her to have in her bedroom. Like I have some chairs, but also a pet bed for Captain Whiskers, because they used to call Charles Captain, and he was a captain in back in the day. So Captain Charles was what they called him, and she wanted to be able to have some memory for Charles. Like called him Captain Whiskers, his little nickname, because he always had whiskers, like peach fuzz or whatever. He didn't shave his face, basically. 5 o'clock shadow. And Alice thought, oh, all these whiskers on your face. Why don't you just shave your face more often? So her nickname for Charles was like Miss Captain Whiskers, da 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 da. A little play on words to the cat that she now has after so many years of losing her husband. It's kind of weird, but kind of cool and kind of like heartfelt that she just, did something for herself at least. And now it's like in the year, I'm gonna say it's not 2020. We're still like early on. Like there are computers and stuff like that, the internet. It's like the late 2000s. So late 2000s, life is still happening, life is still going on, but we now have like access to the internet and places to be, places to go, more variety of places to, sell our stuff, especially for, knitting all your things. And Alice, good old Alice, was like, Daisy is having another kid on the way, and so is Nicholas. And like, even though the child's not born yet, she was like, what if I knit some stuff for the grandkids and like, knit a little onesie for a little Paulie, basically, for like Paul for short, or actually no, Paul is his actual name, but then Paulie is his nickname, which is Daisy's new baby boy that was just born not too long ago, and he's only like a couple of months, so it's like not that old, but he getting old, like he's about to be one. So Alice wanted to knit some stuff for Paul while he was growing up and stuff, and along with the toddler, who is actually Gina Alto, who's Daisy's daughter, and then Chester, who is Nicholas's son, and he's only like, he's about to turn 6, so he's about to be like a child, like a full-fledged child, basically. So he's like getting a little bit older, growing out of his old clothes. And they don't do hand-me-downs, but they still do hand-me-downs here and there if needed. So, which I'm kind of glad that they do, because, things are expensive and they don't got money like that. Well, they do, but they just choose not to spend on brand new clothes that are, way out of the price range, basically. And when you think about it, it's like, even though Alice lives alone, she wanted to have a place for her grandkids to, come along and stay with her if they needed to, or the kids come by. And so she bought herself a Murphy bed for the living room. And you're thinking, why in the world would she buy a Murphy bed if she's not going to sleep in it? So she actually bought herself a Murphy bed / couch combo, where you can actually pull down the Murphy bed into a bed, but also use it as a couch. So it's like a 2-in-1 deal that she got super cheap, but super affordable in her price range, which I'm glad that she got, because it was much needed, because it's a small house and you need to, have some things for, all your stuff, basically. And so moving back to the story that I had, so when she was like knitting all of her stuff for her grandkids, she was thinking, even though she has her Flopsy business and everything, and Miss Crunklebottom is now a longtime customer of hers, Crunklebottom was like, hey, Alice, we go way, 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 way back, like way back to like junior high. And like Crunklebottom was like, hey, you're very talented at knitting, and so am I. Let's go, let's like sell our stuff somewhere. And she was like, sure, why not, Agnes? Sure, whatever, we'll do it. And this is like actually, a couple of years ago, like 2 years ago, where Crunklebottom was like, hey, we should sell our stuff more often. And so basically what both of them did is that they are like not in cahoots, but they're like business partners in a way when you think about it. So those two now sell their stuff online on Flopsy, but also they sell their stuff at the flea market and also at some door-to-door stuff here and there in Willow Creek. And they're doing really well for themselves, if I do say so myself. And as of right now, you can see I'm building Alice's little crafting room with all the nifty knitting items that we got. And let me tell you, I love this pack so much because now we have Yarny, and Yarny is amazing. Unraveled, I love that game so much. 1 and 2, great time. But now that we have it, I feel like we can start making toys for the kids and like start making new things that we haven't made before. So I want to really go dive deep into the pack when I play it on stream today and see what I can definitely do with the pack, like rags or like rags to knitting, you know, stuff like that. Stuff like that to make it look fun. And personally, I had a lot of fun like decorating this office. It's all yellow. My vibe is like my thing that I really like. And personally, I'm looking forward to like sharing with you all the progress that I've made with Alice and her family that you all will be seeing in a creative sim. I'm thinking of actually putting them all in like an all-in-one creative sim with Alice, Charles, Nicholas, Chester, Daisy, Gina, and Paul, and Captain Whiskers, because that's actually 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I mean, a large family that has a huge lineage. And basically what I'm gonna do is create the other, maybe I don't know. I don't think I'm gonna actually make the other altos. I might, if I'm feeling ambitious to make the other altos, like the extended family for family tree reasons, but I probably won't do that because why would I? I mean, it would just add to the story, but it's not really necessary if they're not really going to be played with. But I will add Charles into the mix and definitely kind of build a little grave site, a little graveyard with like some knitting stuff around his grave and stuff like that they can visit every now and then. But for sure, I will be sharing some more videos revolved around Nifty Knitting, Alice Alto, her family, her life of being an elder and thriving, because I am so excited to play with elders now because they now serve a purpose in my game. They have I have more ideas for them, and it's just bringing me a lot of joy to see how we started with literally nothing for them, for nothing for elders, to something. Because when you think about it, elders now have university, they can go back to school if they want to, they can retire, get a part-time job, they can own a Flopsy store and sell things online for profit. They could do a lot of things, teach their grandkids, kids how to knit, but also I don't know, there's also like some parented things as well. And even if they wanted to, they could, I don't know, have an acting career or start making videos online, which I might have Alice do. Now that you think about it, Alice can make videos online as well. Her Flopsy store, and also make some good old-fashioned videos for her business. Oh, so many ideas. There's going to be a part 2 to this, actually. A short part 2 to the creative sim part. But I'm so excited about this. I'm pumped to play with Alice even more. But either way, I'm going to go ahead and actually end this voiceover right here. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Please go ahead and let me know down in the comments below, as always, of what you thought of Alice Alto and her family and the story that I gave them, because I'm going to be expressing how much I adore them for the longest time. But either way, like I said, I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I will see you guys all in the very next video. Bye!